The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to today's live webinar, Increase Your Efficiency, Not Your Overhead, an iComplete demonstration for accountants in practice presented by James Veer. Before we start today's session, please allow me to guide you through a few navigation pointers about the GoToWebinar service. To ensure the best audio quality possible, everyone except for our panelists is muted. You may ask questions at any time by typing them in the question tabs located in the control panel to the right of your screen. We will get back with answers to you as soon as possible after this webinar session has ended. My name is Josephina and I will be your moderator today. This session is being recorded and it will be made available to you after the webinar session has closed. Please note that you can find Complete on Twitter @CompleteP2P. And we encourage you to tweet during today's webinar using the hashtag #CompleteLive. I would now like to introduce you to our presenter today. His name is James and he will be demonstrating the product today. He is part of iComplete's commercial team as a Senior Business Development Manager and will be happy to respond to any questions you may have. So please feel free to send them through the chat during this demo. If you have any questions after the webinar has closed, you can always tweet him directly @JamesVeer. Over to you, James.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Josie, for the introduction. Just wanted to start with a brief overview of what you're currently seeing with regards to invoice processing for your clients and ultimately how you will benefit from utilizing iCompleatInvoice accounts payable automation. If you do have any questions, as Josie said, as we go through, please do put them in the chat box and I can pick them up at the end of the session. So, right now, the invoices are received by your client. They are received in the mail or received via email, then printed out. Now, 60 to 70% of those invoices are now received via email as a PDF. So already counterproductive action is taken and these invoices are printed. You then receive a shoebox of paper invoices. This might be once a week, but more than likely it is once a month or even once at the end of the year. This is then scanned using a variety of different products. Most commonly, OCR is used, and whilst OCR did take the first step to automation in our industry, it can now be slow to process and also sometimes inaccurate. Now, if the client uses an online accounting system, it will most likely post into the accounting system. If not, then the likelihood is you are exporting an Excel file and then importing it in. After that, you will go and file the invoice. Now, whether it is stored digitally or in a filing cabinet, it is now potentially difficult to find these invoices again, risking a long and painful audit process. You will then produce a month-end report for that client, which are, through no fault of your own, at least 2 to 3 weeks out of date. Now, with MTD coming in, this will yet another thing to consider moving forward. So processing will have to change. So here is what we've just established you to see at the moment. Yet for the vast majority of your clients, they likely have some kind of internal process that occurs before you receive the invoice itself. We're not guessing either. This is fact, and I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that we have spoken to countless accountants who have no idea what is happening before they receive the invoice. So what is it that you're not seeing? Well, we can tell you that that you have a diligent process, then this is what's most likely happening. They will receive the invoice 60 to 70% of the time via email, which they are printing off, and they will also receive them via the post. It is then entered into some kind of invoice register or daybook, so they know that they've received it. Any analysis coding is added manually to that invoice. Then an approval process needs to be decided. Someone will then sort all the invoices by approver. They are then put on the desk of the approver. Now, this process is slow. They can get lost. If there are any queries, they will need to be manually returned. And the risk of duplication is high at this stage, as they might have lots to approve and no memory of what they have or haven't seen before. And it's from there, they send the invoices to you, the accountant. This is the first point of visibility of this spend. The invoices you receive could be 2 to 3 weeks old. And as we know, with growing businesses, the ability to pay suppliers on time to improve relationships and ultimately payment terms and credit accounts is vital. When you break down the AP process into components, it falls into 2 activities. The pure labor, which delivers no value and just adds cost to the process, and knowledge, an individual's experience and understanding which is required to make a decision or take an appropriate action. Automation is about removing that labor content. But we also have AI and machine learning, which is about automating or defaulting the repetitive tasks. For example, checking the invoice banking information against the information in your accounting software or defaulting of GL code so it happens automatically every time. It is this combination of automating labor and the knowledge activities that give you such a high productivity, but is also the delivery of real-time visibility of all of the financial information that transform the value automation delivers, not only to every organization, but also to their accountants that provide services to them. So now I'd like to show you what the iCompleatInvoice process looks like. PDF invoices are emailed in either direct from the suppliers or forwarded straight from the client's email into our e-invoicing portal. The portal then captures the data from the invoice, providing you with validated header and line information within your iComplete system. Now, we understand that 60 to 80% of all invoices go to the same account code, VAT code, and approver. This information can actually be defaulted, so you don't have to repeat your actions each time you receive an invoice from a supplier. Now, approvers are busy people that are always on the go. They will be notified by email or via our mobile application that they have something to approve. This means they approve, deny, or comment on the invoice wherever they are. Lastly, the approved and validated invoice is posted into your account or your client's chosen accounting platform, and the journal number is then retrieved for a fully compliant process. So the steps that we can eliminate from your process are: you'll no longer need to print out invoices that are sent to you via email. Keying into an invoice register becomes redundant. With 60 to 80% of invoices now having default account coding and approval process, the decision-making required is minimalized, leaving you to handle only the exceptions to the rule. No longer will the client need to distribute the invoices manually to the approvers, and all the tracking issues around paper invoices are now eliminated. Manually keying the invoices into the accounting system will now become a thing of the past, and because all invoices are stored and tracked, there is no need to file the paper anymore. And out-of-date month-end reports will be no more, as you and your clients can access real-time information. So ultimately, automation powered by AI and machine learning removes all of the labor, but also 60 to 80% of the knowledge requirement through defaulting. If the business has a poor capture and approval process, they can save at least 65% of all the work. But if they have a good process, then up to 90% productivity gains can be achieved. So iCompleatInvoice is more than AP automation. It's about giving real-time financial visibility to everyone that needs to know, delivering fully compliant best practice processes, saving both time and money. Taking that into account, the process can be as simple as this: a PDF invoice received and defaulted, sent directly to the appropriate approver for them to view online or on the mobile application, and on approval, posted straight into the accounting system. This gives you real-time access to invoice information wherever it is in the process and one single view of the truth. It's going to remove paper and increase visibility, reduce the level of human interaction and speed up the entire process, and access essential information in real time with our comprehensive dashboards and reporting. This gives you 100% paperless process. So that's just a bit of a background on Complete as a company and specifically the invoice management process. So what I'll now do is jump into the demonstration to show you the product. So just to start, just to explain what you're seeing here is this is the administration or the accountant view of iCompleatInvoice. So I have all the tabs and options available to me. To the top left, to start with, I first of all can switch companies. So as the accountant, I may have many companies on iCompleatInvoice, so I can switch in between each one of those companies. So I've got all my companies here with their relevant email address and the accounting software that they are connected to. So not only does it connect to only one of them, if you have multiple clients on multiple different platforms, it will connect to them as well. Next to that is our question mark, which gives you a page guide. So every single page within iCompleatInvoice comes with a page guide, making it very easy for your client and yourselves to learn the system. And below that, we have our online support system, iClick. And this is where you will find things like videos and how-to articles of how you can set up the system, including a search for the help and documentation you need. Next to that, I've got all my user rights. Now, to the middle here, I've got all my tabs, and below that is my e-invoicing email address. Now, this is the email address that's associated with my account. So when I want to send invoices in, if I send it to this particular email address, this will then process the invoices and drop them into my system. Each one of your clients will have their own specific email address. Now, to start, I just want to jump into my configuration tab just to show you some of the options. Now, there are three types of users. And if I jump into my Manage User tab, we can explain them from there. You first of all have an admin or an administrator or a company administrator. You secondly have an AP operator, so someone who's going to be coding the invoices and sending them off for approval. And lastly, you have an approver for approving invoices. You lastly have a company administrator. Now, the company administrator is someone that will sit within your client's business, but then can also set things up like workflows and set new users up within that. So to the left-hand side, I've got all my standard information, the first name and last name, the email address, and their role. Below that, I have my nominee, and this is used to redirect approvals to an alternative approver when this user is absent, so if they're sick or if they're on holiday, so making sure that they're not stopping the process in terms of approving invoices. Next to that, I've got my language, so we've got a few different languages here if you've got multi-entity, and we will be adding to that in the coming months. To the right-hand side, I've got all my permissions. So as an administrator of this, I can see that this particular user, Jessica, has access to the iComplete company, but if I have a look at company C, they do not have access. So only letting this particular user see the options that are available to them, the information that they can see. Below that, there is a sort of a more in-depth look at what they can see. So as a user, this user is only an approver, but you can set them to one or as many as they like. The ones next to that, global permissions, just more administration functions, and then lastly, the reporting information. So can they see all the reports, and can they see universal access to every single transaction that's been put through, or only the information that they have approved and denied? So I can see here this user can only see the information that they have approved and denied. Now, the second screen I want to show you within the administration options is the workflow tab. And this is really the positive in terms of our system, the one that really sets us apart. So for this particular company or this particular client, I've set them up as departments because I know that that's how they want their approvals to work. So if I click on my IT department workflow, at the top of the screen, I can see the full name as the IT department. Next to that, the abbreviated name, which will show up at the bottom of the invoice when sending it off for approval. I can see here that the invoice has two positions for being approved. So if I click on the first position, it will break it down, and I've labeled it IT, and I've got my IT manager, Rory, in here. Now, say for example, there might be 2 people within IT that can approve a particular invoice. So what I can do is click on another user, click to add that user, and this has now turned this approval position into an approval group, which means when this is sent off for approval to this particular workflow, it will send an email to both users with only one of them needing to approve it to send it on to the next stage. So very handy if this particular client has multiple people that can approve an invoice, or they're unsure who needs to approve it. The second stage I've labeled as senior management, and I've got my MD Phil in here. However, I don't want to worry Phil with every single invoice that goes to the IT department. However, I do want him to see high value ones. So what I've done is I've configured a threshold for this particular workflow and said that every time an invoice is over £1,000, it will firstly be approved by the IT department, but then it will come to Phil for final approval. If it's under 1,000, it will skip him completely. These workflows are very flexible. So if I actually wanted to see my senior management approve it first, if it's over 1,000, I can do that and flick it back the other way as well. You can have as many steps as you like. It's really up to the type of business that your client has. So let's go back into my core screen and let's jump into my Manage Invoices tab, which is where all the invoice processing happens. So just to start, I want to explain the tab. So again, what you're seeing is the administrator accountant view of the software itself. So the unprocessed tray are where invoices are going to come for the very first time. So after they've been read by our portal, they're going to drop in here to be coded and sent for approval. The submitted tray is where invoices, we can see invoices and where they are next going to be approved. So in terms of having full visibility of the software, I can see that Katrina needs to approve these 2 invoices and marketing needs to approve this one. So I can see a whole overview of where every invoice is within the chain. The awaiting approval tray sort of speaks for themselves. These are the invoices that I need approval for this particular user, and the approved and deny sort of speak for themselves. Next to that, I can see all the records across all my clients or the particular company that I'm in right now. So let's jump back into my unprocessed tray. And what I'm seeing here, every single line is an invoice. So it's giving me a quick snapshot of that particular invoice. So the date received, the invoice date, the payment due date, our invoice number, so our reference number, the supplier, their invoice number, and the net, the VAT, and the gross. So let's click on the top one here from Crown Venue Catering, and what it's going to do is going to drill down into the information that has been extracted from this invoice. So to the top left, I've got my header information and the cost of that particular invoice. Below that, what we have done is validated the bank details that we've read off the invoice with the ones that are stored in this particular client's accounting software. So for financial fraud, we're making sure that this invoice isn't from a fraudulent person. So making sure that we can actually pay this particular invoice. Below that, it's read all 5 lines on the invoice. So I can see the description and the unit cost for every single line. It's also read the tax code as exempt, as you can see. Now, the reason that all 5 lines are in red is that they require me to enter something before I can send it for approval. So if I hover over this, I can see that it's asking me to set an account code and a department because I use department for this particular client. Now, for most of these invoices, you're going to need to code it the exact same way. And what we've got here is our quick actions button. So what I can do is click and apply a code for every single line. If I drill down, all my codes have been brought in from this particular client's accounting software in our 2-way integration. So let's say this one is for refreshments. If I click on refreshments, click on my all button, press OK. This transaction has now been updated, and as you can see, the account code for every line has been set as refreshments. What I can also see is the department. So let's say this one is for Doncaster and click OK. It has now coded this entire invoice with department as Doncaster. And as you can see below my workflow approvals, approval chains have now appeared. So this is now essentially ready to send off for approval. However, we understand that a lot of invoices won't always be the case where you can code them every single one the same. So if I click on edit, it's going to drill down firstly on the left-hand side to the invoice image. So all the information that we extracted, as you can see there. It also drags in any supporting documentation that has come with the invoice. So in this case, this has come direct from the supplier, so I can see the email that was sent with it. However, this could be payment information or a delivery note, anything like that will always be stored in the same place. So for audit purposes, everything is going to be in one place. So one single view of the truth. To the right-hand side, I've got a breakdown of this particular invoice. So the header information and every line broken up. So as you can see there, the item code, the description, and the cost. So essentially, I can code each line separately with a different account code and department. So if your client needs line level analysis, then this is available to you. So let's say that this particular line isn't actually for Doncaster, this is for London. I can change it to London, press save. That's now been saved. All the transactions now been saved. So, however, let's say this invoice does, however, need to be coded the same way. And let's say it's always coded that way. And what I've got here below my supplier name is I can map the supplier defaults. If I click on this button, what it's saying is that every single time I receive an invoice from Crown Venue Catering, set this as the account code or the currency code or any kind of analysis that I need, and also always send it to this particular workflow for approval. So this is where we can get up to that 90% productivity gains. Defaulting all this information means no one will ever have to code this again, and it will go straight to the approver for approval. In this case, I'm not going to approve or set defaults for this one, and I'm going to send this invoice to my marketing department. So this has now been sent off for approval, and it is taking me on actually to the next particular invoice to code. So if you've got a big, I suppose, tray worth of invoices, it will take you on to the next one. And as you can see with my next invoice, this particular one does not have matching bank details. So we're making sure that they can only approve invoices that are not fraudulent. So let's log off now as my admin user and log in as my approver. And what happens is once I sent that off for approval, it triggered two types of notifications. The first being an email into their inbox to say they've got something. And the second, if they've downloaded our mobile application, it will send them an app notification to say that they've got something approved, so they can approve it on the phone as well. As you can see here, my screen has changed quite a bit. So what I'm seeing here is just the Manage Invoices tab and the reporting. I can also only see the one company that I've got access to. So let's jump into the Invoices tab. Again, I can only see awaiting approval, the approved and denied trays. So there's the one that I sent for approval, the Crown Venue Catering. Again, I can drill down to the information that was read the same way as before and drill all the way down into the invoice image. However, this time I've got my timeline on the right-hand side, or I suppose the audit trail. So I can see here that Katrina sent it off for approval to me. This is the cost, and I'm the only approver. However, if there was more approvers, there would be an arrow and someone else. So they always got full visibility of exactly what's going on. I can approve or deny it from here, or I can add a comment. So if you need to put this under query, you can add a comment and then deny the invoice. In this case, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to press approve as the marketing manager. That is now moved over into my approved tray, where within about 30 seconds, it's going to post into my accounting software. It will then bring me back a journal number. So that's a full end-to-end process of how things work. So you can automate as much as you like, or do things sort of, if you need to code line by line, you can do that as well. Now, the Manage Invoices tab itself acts as almost a document management tool as well. So if I go back into my admin view, I've got my approved invoices and all the invoices that I've got available to me. Now, let's say, for example, you want to try and find an invoice. You've got someone on the phone, or you've got someone, a supplier on the phone, and they say, yep, I'm from Regis Property Management. And if I click on filter, because I've got all these filter tabs along each one of them, it's going to filter all my Regis Property Management ones. And let's say on the phone, they're saying that there's a particular invoice with the last 4 digits of 1882 that they're querying the payment on. So it's drilled all the way down into the invoice under query. Now, if I click on that particular invoice, again, it's going to take me into the information that was read at the time. And if I click down on Documents and Timeline, again, I get the invoice image. So always having the ability to go down to the invoice image. And this time I've got a full audit trail of what happened with this particular invoice. I can see it was submitted by Katrina, or the accountant. I can see that the accountant approved this one in particular, and it was posted on this particular day and time with this journal number into my accounting software. I can also see that this invoice has been paid on this particular date by this particular user in my accounting software. So I can see a full end-to-end audit trail within this software without going into my accounting software. Now, we can set this particular functionality automatically. So once a day, it will go and retrieve all the payment information, or I've got my manual button here as well. Now, I suppose with all this information that we're gathering, we didn't really just want to leave it there. We didn't want to just capture information and drop it into your finance systems. So we created a reporting pack. Now, for your client, this is perfect because they're going to find out information without having to contact yourselves about sort of every which thing. So I can see the 2 different types of reports. The first one being activity-based, and then the second being financial reports. So with the activity-based ones, you can have things like invoices per day, invoices pending approval. And what we're doing is collating this information and then, I suppose, giving it to your client in a very easy to read sort of way. So I've got here, how many invoices I'm processing a week with this particular client, and I can flex on the period as well. The really handy ones, especially for your client, are going to be the financial reports. So the one that we find very handy, especially for growing businesses, is the supplier spend report. So you've got your particular client that is trying to negotiate better deals with this particular supplier. So we use this one as an example, Crown Venue Catering. And what I can see is, let's say I want to know what I've spent with this particular supplier over the last 6 months. It's going to give me a nice line chart with a month-by-month breakdown of exactly how much I'm spending per month, giving me what I spent this month, the last 12 months, and what I've spent with them all time as well. So giving them the ability to negotiate better deals or better terms within their supplier. With all this information, all I need to do is click on any part of it and it will drill all the way down to what actually makes up that number. So I see all the invoices that make up that 1,109.40. From here, I can export these to PDF, and I can even export them to Excel if I've got any kind of existing reports that I want to add them to. As always, within all parts of the system, I can drill all the way down into the invoice image as well. The last one I want to show you is the cash requirements report. So a lot of managing directors and GMs of businesses don't really know what I suppose their outgoings are accurately at that particular time. They wait till the end of the month to find out exactly what's going on. So what we've created here is a outgoing cash requirement report. And let's say I want to see the breakdown by week. And I can drill down by all my companies or just this particular company. And I want to see what my cash requirements are for, let's say, the next month. Let's change it to the 20th. So what I've got here is the invoices that need payment per week, any VAT repayments that came out, the payroll. I've added my payroll so I can see when the payroll is coming out and the PAYE, giving me a total outgoing for every single week over the next 5 weeks. With this as well, again, I can click down and see exactly the invoices that need paying in that particular week. So just giving one extra step, I suppose, automation and helping your client sort of be better reliant on that. So that's really everything in the actual demonstration that we want to show today. if I bring back my PowerPoint. So just to summarize, what's the opportunity? The opportunity is every growing business has an invoice approval process. This is fact. Now, almost none of them are compliance best practice, and they're very open to fraud and duplicate invoice payments. Cash flow is always top of the MD's agenda, so the cash requirements reporting is extremely helpful to them. Supplier accounts are critical to cash flow growth and very critical to enable sales delivery. The cost of AP administration that add no value and simply a better way of working. But what's the actual reward for you and your practice? So it's the opportunity to re-engage with your larger clients, engage with new prospective clients, offer a compelling solution to save your client time and resources, deliver better real-time information, increase your productivity and profitability. So services more clients with the same resources, deliver a better service, I suppose, to each one of your clients, deliver best practice compliance, and you're going to stand out from the crowd. Ultimately, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, so you need to do what you can to stand out from the crowd. This is where I will conclude my portion of this webinar this morning, and I will pass back to Josie now to see if we have any questions.
Thank you very much, James, for that. It was a really good demonstration. We've overrun ever so slightly, so any questions that have been sent to the chat will be responded to by email directly. However, I do want to make everyone aware that we have currently got offer. So for all the accountants that have joined this webinar or would be interested to try the platform themselves, we do have the 30-day free trial. However, we're giving accounting practices the opportunity to use iComplete for their own internal transactions completely free for 1 year. This is, of course, the subscription charges. So transactions will still be charged, but you'll pay absolutely no subscription. This is to make sure that you're comfortable with the system and you're very happy with it. And we trust that you will then be wanting to get all your clients on it. So with this message, I will conclude the webinar today. I will also leave all the details for you to get in touch with us if you have any questions after this webinar has concluded on the screen. So please feel free to get in touch with us on the details on your screen right now. So it's either with James Veer directly at james.veer@completesoftware.com. You can also find him on Twitter at James Veer, or get in touch with us at our general email address, complete@completesoftware.com. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. I hope you have enjoyed the webinar, and if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you so much. This webinar has now concluded. Goodbye.